My parents always said disappointment softly, never loudly. It was their specialty. Small sighs, quick glances, a quiet shake of the head. But that night, they didn't hide it. We were sitting in the living room after dinner, the TV on low, when Dad leaned forward with the seriousness of a judge about to read a verdict. Mom folded her arms like she had been waiting months for this moment. We expected more from you. Simple words. Cold. Final. Delivered like a statement of fact, not an opinion. And the way they said more didn't mean ambition or choices. It meant I had failed them. Failed the story they had written in their heads. Failed the comparison they always made between me and my brother, Daniel, the family's golden poster child. Daniel, who had never worked a real job, but somehow had potential. Daniel, who owed money everywhere, but was still treated like the next great success. And me, stable job, quiet life, bills paid, never caused trouble, yet never enough. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just sat there, letting their disappointment settle around me like dust. But then Dad added another line, the one that pierced more than anything. You're not living up to the family standards. Family standards, spoken by two people who rarely worked, constantly borrowed money from friends, and treated image like a religion. Mom nodded along, almost proud of the sentence, as if she had finally said what she'd always wanted. I felt a strange calm spread through me. Not anger, not sadness, just clarity, because hours earlier, while Mom and Dad thought I was just sitting alone in my room on the phone again, I had recorded a conversation they didn't know I heard. A conversation where they said far worse things about me than what they were brave enough to say to my face. And that recording was sitting safely on my phone. They expected more from me? Good. They were about to get it. The night they lectured me felt heavy, but not because of their words. I'd heard versions of that speech my entire life. What made this night different was what I already knew, what they had said about me when they thought I wasn't listening. The recording sat in my pocket as they talked, every second more valuable than anything they had ever given me. Earlier that day, I had come home from work to pick up a document I forgot. I walked in quietly, hearing voices in the kitchen. When I realized it was my parents and Daniel, I paused. Not to snoop, but because something in Mom's tone felt strange, sharp, irritated, the way she sounded when she talked about strangers she disliked. She wasn't whispering. She wasn't careful. She sounded annoyed. At me. He's almost 30 and still hasn't achieved anything meaningful. Mom said, like she was listing an embarrassing statistic. Dad laughed quietly. What did we expect? He's average, at best. My heart dropped. This wasn't normal complaining. This wasn't frustration. This was contempt, raw, unfiltered, honest. The kind of truth people hide behind politeness. Daniel chimed in without hesitation. He's not even useful. I don't know why you keep pretending he'll ever get his life together. Useful, like a tool or household item. Not a son. Not a brother. I stood there, frozen, looking at the family who demanded loyalty, respect, sacrifice. And in that moment, something inside me shifted. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even surprised. I was simply done. Quietly, I hit record on my phone and captured the rest. Mom sighed. Honestly, I think we raised the wrong child. Wrong child. Dad agreed, like it was a fact they had finally accepted. We're wasting our time hoping he'll ever become someone. When I walked out that afternoon and closed the door, I didn't feel hurt. I felt awake. So later, when they sat in the living room telling me they expected more, I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because they had no idea I had heard the unfiltered version already, before they cleaned it up for my face. They kept talking. criticizing, comparing, telling me what I should be doing, where I should be by now, how other people's kids were doing better. They never noticed how calm I was, how steady, how quietly focused. You don't push yourself, Dad added. You don't work hard enough. Me, the one who paid the bills on time, who never borrowed money, who had a stable job, who never caused chaos, apparently didn't work hard enough. Meanwhile, Daniel, the walking disaster, nodded along as if he were a panel judge. Mom leaned in. It's time you take responsibility for disappointing us. Responsibility for their fantasies, their delusions, their favoritism. They saw my silence as guilt, or submission, or shame. They never saw what it really was, preparation. Because the recording was only part of the story. I had proof of their opinions. But I also had months of text messages where they demanded money for family emergencies that turned out to be vacations. Screenshots of them taking credit for my career in front of relatives. A trail of lies they'd told about me to protect Daniel's image. And last week, I learned they had also tried to talk my boss into pushing me to improve, embarrassing themselves and me in the process. I wasn't going to expose them publicly. That wasn't my style. I wasn't going to scream or throw their words back. They thrived on drama. They wanted reactions. They wanted to feel powerful. What they were going to get was consequence. The first step was simple. Distance. Real distance. Not the emotional distance I had learned to live with. Not the polite, survival kind. Actual removal. Physical separation. A few hours after their speech, when the house went quiet, I sat in my room and opened my savings account. I had more money than they assumed. A lot more. Because while they were busy mocking my average life, I had been quietly building one stable income, smart budgeting, small investments, freelance projects they knew nothing about. I booked an apartment, a clean, quiet space across the city with enough sunlight and not a single memory attached to it. I paid the deposit. I scheduled the move. Then I wrote a message. I'll be moving out in 2 days. Don't worry about helping. I've got it handled. Mom replied immediately. What are you talking about? Dad followed. You're overreacting. Daniel chimed in. Wow. Drama. For the first time in years, I didn't feel the need to explain myself. I didn't bend. I didn't soften my tone. I didn't justify anything. I simply replied, no, I'm choosing peace. The next morning, I emailed HR at work and requested a meeting. Not because of trouble, but because an opportunity had opened a month ago for a promotion no one expected me to qualify for. I had the skills, the experience, the numbers. I just needed to show the initiative. I sent the proposal I had been quietly building for weeks. By afternoon, I got the message. Let's discuss this. It looks strong. Strong. A word I had never heard from my parents, but it felt good to hear it from someone who wasn't biased. That night, I packed my things. While folding clothes, I played the recording again. Not to hurt myself, but to remind myself why I was doing this. Why breaking away wasn't betrayal. Why leaving wasn't punishment. It was freedom. When I walked out with the first box, Dad stood near the door, arms crossed. You're being childish. Mom added, this is why we said you weren't ready for real life. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The silence itself was a message. I walked past them, carrying my belongings, my future, and the proof of everything they thought I'd never be. They expected more from me? Good. Because the next part of my life was going to give them exactly that, just not in the way they imagined.